There are some moments in history that people never forget. Moments when an entire generation remembers exactly where they were and what they were doing when they heard the news. For millions of people around the world, August 31st, 1997, was one of those moments. It was the day the world woke up to a tragedy that seemed impossible to believe. Princess Diana, one of the most famous and admired women on Earth, was dead. The news traveled quickly across continents. Television stations interrupted regular programming. Newspapers prepared special editions. People gathered in silence outside palaces, churches, and public buildings. Flowers began appearing in streets across Britain and beyond. For many, Diana's death was not simply the loss of a member of the British royal family. It felt like the loss of someone they personally knew. A woman who had spent years reaching out to ordinary people. A woman who had used her position not only for ceremonies and royal appearances, but to draw attention to human suffering around the world. She had been called many things: princess, humanitarian, global icon. But perhaps the name that best described her connection with people was the one given to her after her death, the People's Princess. Yet before she became one of the most recognized women in history, Diana Frances Spencer was simply a young girl growing up in an aristocratic English family. She was born on July 1st, 1961, at Park House, Sandringham, Norfolk, England. Her family had a long connection with the British aristocracy. The Spencer family had served the royal family for generations, and Diana's childhood was spent close to the world of privilege and tradition. Her father, John Spencer, was Viscount Althorp, and her mother was Frances Shand Kidd. From the outside, Diana appeared to have been born into a perfect world. She lived in a grand estate. She belonged to a respected family. She had access to opportunities many people could only imagine. But behind the appearance of privilege was a childhood marked by personal difficulties. Diana's parents had a troubled marriage, and their separation when she was young had a lasting impact on her. The breakup of her family was a painful experience. For a child growing up in a wealthy environment, it was a reminder that money and status could not protect people from personal struggles. Diana attended boarding schools during her childhood and teenage years. Those who knew her often described her as gentle, caring, and sensitive. She was not known as a brilliant academic student, but she had qualities that would later become central to her public identity. She had compassion, she had emotional intelligence, and she had a natural ability to connect with people. These qualities would eventually make her one of the most loved public figures in the world. During her teenage years, Diana's life moved closer to the British royal family. The Spencer family had known the royals for many years, and Diana had crossed paths with Prince Charles when she was young. At the time, however, there was little indication that she would one day become one of the most famous people on Earth. Prince Charles, the eldest son of Queen Elizabeth II, had a very different life. As the heir to the British throne, his future had already been planned from birth. Every aspect of his life was connected to duty, tradition, and expectation. By the late 1970s, there was growing pressure for Charles to marry. The future king needed a wife who could represent the monarchy and eventually become queen. When Charles began spending more time with Diana Spencer, public interest grew quickly. She was young, she was attractive, she came from an aristocratic background, and she appeared to represent a new, modern image for the royal family. The media became fascinated with her. Newspapers around the world followed every detail of their relationship. In February 1981, their engagement was officially announced. At only 19 years old, Diana suddenly became one of the most famous people on the planet. The world watched her every movement. During the engagement interview, Diana appeared shy and nervous. She was entering a world unlike anything she had ever experienced. The attention was enormous. Millions of people saw the relationship as a real-life fairy tale. A young woman was about to marry the future king of Britain. But behind the excitement and public celebration was a young woman trying to understand the enormous responsibility that was about to come. On July 29, 1981, Diana Spencer married Prince Charles at St. Paul's Cathedral in London. The wedding became one of the biggest events of the 20th century. Hundreds of millions of people watched the ceremony around the world. Millions more followed the celebrations through newspapers and television. The streets of London were filled with crowds hoping to see the couple. Diana's wedding dress became one of the most famous wedding dresses ever created. The moment she entered the cathedral, she became Princess Diana. For many people watching, it represented the beginning of a new era for the monarchy. The young princess appeared to bring freshness and warmth to an institution often described as formal and distant. But royal life was far more complicated than the fairy tale image presented to the public. Becoming a member of the royal family meant entering a world governed by strict rules and expectations. Every appearance was planned, every statement was carefully considered, every mistake could become a global headline. Diana was naturally emotional and open. The royal family had traditionally valued privacy, restraint, and tradition. This difference in personality would become one of the challenges she faced. In 1982, Diana and Charles welcomed their first child, Prince William. 2 years later, in 1984, their second son, Prince Harry, was born. As a mother, Diana brought a different style to royal parenting. She wanted to be present in her children's lives. She wanted them to experience things outside the traditional royal bubble. She took them to school herself when possible. She showed affection openly. She wanted her children to understand the world beyond palaces and official ceremonies. Many people admired this approach. They saw a mother who happened to be royal, rather than a royal figure who happened to be a mother. This connection with ordinary people would become one of the defining features of Diana's life. While her marriage attracted constant media attention, Diana began creating her own identity through humanitarian work. This was where she truly transformed from a famous royal figure into a global humanitarian symbol. Diana visited hospitals, she supported charities, she met people facing difficult circumstances. But what separated her from many public figures was the way she interacted with people. She did not simply appear at events and deliver speeches. She listened, she touched hands, she showed genuine emotion. In a time when many people viewed royalty as distant, Diana created a sense of closeness. One of the most important examples of this was her work involving HIV and AIDS. During the 1980s, fear and misinformation surrounded the disease. Many people wrongly believed that casual contact could spread HIV. Because of this fear, many people living with the condition experienced discrimination and isolation. In 1987, during a visit to a hospital in London, Diana publicly shook hands with a man who had HIV. The simple act attracted worldwide attention, but it carried a powerful message. She showed millions of people that compassion should replace fear, that human beings deserved dignity regardless of illness. Her actions helped change public attitudes and challenged harmful misconceptions. Diana also became known for her work supporting homeless people, children, the elderly, and those affected by war. She used her position to highlight issues that were often ignored. Her influence was not only because she was famous, it was because she made people feel that their struggles mattered. However, while the world admired Diana, her private life was becoming increasingly difficult. The image of a perfect royal marriage was beginning to disappear. Behind closed doors, Diana and Charles were struggling. They had different personalities, they had different interests, and their relationship became increasingly strained. The intense media attention made their problems even harder. Every disagreement became a headline. Every rumor became international news. The public marriage and the private reality were becoming two very different things. A major source of tension was Charles's continued relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles. The issue became widely discussed in the media and created further pressure on the marriage. Diana later spoke publicly about the emotional difficulties she experienced. Her interviews revealed that life inside the royal family was not always the perfect story people imagined. By the early 1990s, the marriage had reached a breaking point. In 1992, Charles and Diana announced their separation. The news shocked the world. The couple who had represented a modern royal fairy tale were no longer together. But even after separation, Diana remained one of the most watched people on earth. In 1996, their divorce was finalized. She lost the title Her Royal Highness, but she did not lose her influence. In fact, many believe that after leaving the royal family, Diana became even more powerful as a humanitarian figure. She was no longer limited by royal traditions. She could choose the causes she wanted to support, she could speak more freely, and she continued using her global fame to bring attention to important issues. After her divorce from Prince Charles in 1996, Diana Spencer entered a new and unexpected chapter of her life. She was no longer officially part of the royal family in the same way she had been before, but her influence around the world remained enormous. In many ways, freedom from royal duties allowed Diana to become even more focused on causes that mattered deeply to her. She was no longer simply representing the monarchy. She was representing herself, and the causes she chose revealed the kind of legacy she wanted to build. Diana continued her humanitarian work with even greater determination. She supported organizations helping children, people affected by poverty, and those living with serious illnesses. But one of her most recognized campaigns in the final years of her life involved the fight against landmines. During the 1990s, landmines remained a serious problem in many countries affected by conflict. Long after wars ended, these hidden explosives continued to threaten civilians, especially children. In January 1997, Diana traveled to Angola as part of a campaign to raise awareness about the dangers of landmines. The images from that visit became some of the most memorable photographs of her life. She walked through a cleared area of a former minefield wearing protective equipment. The visit attracted global attention. For supporters of the campaign, Diana's involvement helped bring a humanitarian issue to the attention of millions of people who may never have heard about it before. Her ability to use her fame for causes beyond herself had become one of her greatest strengths. By the final years of her life, Diana had become a different kind of public figure. She was no longer simply known as the former wife of the future king. She was known as a woman who challenged traditions, connected with ordinary people, and used her position to highlight human suffering. However, despite her public success, Diana's private life remained under intense attention. The media continued following her every movement. Photographers wanted pictures of her wherever she went. Her popularity made her one of the most valuable subjects for newspapers and magazines around the world. The same media attention that helped spread her humanitarian messages also created enormous pressure on her personal life. In the summer of 1997, Diana's life once again became the focus of international attention. She began a relationship with Dodi Fayed, the son of Egyptian businessman Mohammed Al-Fayed. Dodi was a film producer and member of a wealthy family. Their relationship quickly attracted intense media interest. Photographers followed them constantly, hoping to capture images of the couple. During this period, Diana and Dodi spent time together in different locations, including the south of France. Photographs of them became front-page news around the world. For Diana, who had spent much of her life being photographed without privacy, the attention was nothing new, but the intensity remained overwhelming. In August 1997, Diana traveled to Paris with Dodi Fayed. The couple stayed at the Ritz Hotel, owned by Mohammed Al-Fayed. On the evening of August 30th, they spent time at the hotel before deciding to leave. Outside the hotel, photographers were waiting. The presence of paparazzi had become a regular part of Diana's life. However, that night would become one of the most tragic moments in modern history. Shortly after midnight, Diana, Dodi Fayed, and their driver Henri Paul left the Ritz Hotel. They were traveling in a Mercedes-Benz through Paris. Their destination was a private apartment. As they left the hotel, photographers followed the vehicle. The car entered the Pont de l'Alma tunnel. Moments later, tragedy struck. The vehicle crashed inside the tunnel. The impact was devastating. Dodi Fayed and driver Henri Paul died at the scene. Diana was critically injured. Her bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones, was the only survivor. Emergency services arrived quickly. Diana was taken to the Pitié-Salpêtrière hospital in Paris. Doctors fought to save her life. But despite medical efforts, Princess Diana died in the early hours of August 31st, 1997. She was only 36 years old. The announcement of Diana's death shocked the world. For many people, it felt impossible. Only days earlier, she had appeared in photographs, smiling and traveling. Now, one of the most recognizable women on Earth was gone. News organizations around the world reported the tragedy. People gathered outside Buckingham Palace and Kensington Palace. Many were unable to hide their grief. Flowers began appearing in enormous numbers. The scale of public mourning was unlike anything Britain had experienced in modern times. The British royal family initially remained at Balmoral Castle in Scotland, where Queen Elizabeth II and other members of the family were staying. The public reaction, however, was intense. Many people expected a stronger public response from the royal family. Questions were raised about flags, statements, and how the monarchy was handling the tragedy. The situation created a difficult moment for the institution. Diana had been divorced from Prince Charles, but millions of people still viewed her as an important part of the royal family. She was the mother of Prince William and Prince Harry. She was a global symbol, and people wanted the monarchy to acknowledge the enormous public grief. On September 6, 1997, Diana's funeral took place. It became one of the most watched events in television history. Millions gathered along the streets of London as the funeral procession passed. Millions more watched from their homes around the world. The sight of people standing silently, holding flowers and crying, became one of the defining images of the decade. During the funeral service at Westminster Abbey, Diana's brother Charles Spencer delivered a powerful tribute. He spoke about her compassion, her courage, and her role as a mother. The ceremony also included a performance by Elton John, who sang a rewritten version of Candle in the Wind in her memory. The song later became one of the best-selling singles of all time. After the funeral, Diana was buried at her family's estate, Althorpe, in Northamptonshire. Her resting place became a place where many people continued to remember her life and work. But even after her burial, the questions surrounding her death continued. How exactly did the crash happen? Were the photographers responsible? Was there any larger conspiracy? These questions became the subject of intense public debate. The official investigations examined the circumstances surrounding the crash. French authorities conducted an investigation into the accident. Later, a British investigation known as Operation Paget examined various theories and allegations surrounding Diana's death. The official conclusions stated that the crash was caused by several factors, including the condition of the driver, Henri Paul, who was found to have been under the influence of alcohol and prescription drugs, excessive speed, and the pursuit by paparazzi. The investigations did not find evidence supporting claims that Diana's death was the result of a planned assassination. However, because Diana was such a globally important figure, speculation continued for years. One major focus of public discussion was the role of the paparazzi. Photographers had been following Diana and the vehicle that night. The tragedy created a worldwide debate about the relationship between celebrities and the media. Many people questioned whether the constant pursuit of famous individuals had gone too far. The intense demand for exclusive photographs had created a dangerous environment where privacy was often ignored. Diana's death changed the way many people viewed celebrity journalism. Media organizations faced criticism and pressure to reconsider how they covered the private lives of public figures. Beyond the controversy, Diana's greatest impact remained her humanitarian work. After her death, many of the causes she supported continued to grow. Her work against landmines contributed to increased global attention on the issue. Her efforts to reduce stigma around HIV/AIDS remained an important part of public health history, and her approach to charity influenced a new generation of public figures. Diana also left behind two sons. Prince William and Prince Harry were still young when their mother died. Their loss became one of the most emotional parts of the tragedy. Millions of people around the world watched as the two young princes walked behind their mother's coffin during her funeral. The image became one of the most painful reminders of the human side of the tragedy. Behind the titles and the fame was a family grieving the loss of a mother. Decades after her death, Princess Diana remains one of the most influential figures of the 20th century. Her life contained both extraordinary success and deep personal struggles. She experienced worldwide fame, but she also faced intense pressure. She lived inside one of the most famous institutions in the world, but she also created her own identity beyond it. She was admired because she appeared human. She was not perfect. She faced difficulties. She made mistakes. But she continued using her platform to help others. Princess Diana's story is ultimately not only about a tragic night in Paris. It is about a woman who transformed the meaning of public service. A woman who showed that influence could be used to bring attention to forgotten problems. A woman who changed how many people viewed royalty. A woman whose compassion became more powerful than her title. On August 31, 1997, the world lost Princess Diana. But the values she represented, kindness, empathy, and concern for others, continued long after her death. Her life lasted only 36 years, yet the impact she made continues decades later. The princess who once captured the world's attention through photographs and royal ceremonies became remembered for something much deeper: the ability to make people feel seen, the ability to make people feel heard, and the ability to remind the world that even the most famous individuals can use their lives to serve others. This was the story of Diana Frances Spencer.